Alright guys, here we go. So you want to reload ammunition, right? You want to reload your own because you want to save money. You want to enjoy a hobby that's going to give you, you know, an interesting thing to do. But if you're a keen shooter, it's going to mean you're going to be able to save a lot of money by not having to use factory ammunition all the time. Factory ammunition is good quality, but it has a very high cost. By making the initial investment to buy yourself a press and the dies and a manual, you can then you know, you can buy bullets in bulk, which will be cheaper per bullet. You can recycle your brass, so you don't have to keep buying new ammunition and then throwing this in the rubbish, which, believe it or not, the shell, the brass case, is the most expensive out of all the components. They don't get damaged when you shoot them. They basically, although the straight wall cartridges tend to shrink, whereas the walled cartridges, which sorry, with the neck cartridges, so you know, 38 Special, 45 Colt, 357 Magnum, 9mm, 380, 32 ACP, 45 ACP, 10mm, 40 S&W, all those cartridges are straight walled cartridges, which means they are just straight all the way along. They're the same circumference from here all the way to the end. But as opposed to the necked cartridges, which are for cartridges that are basically for long distance varmint shooting or much higher velocities. There's all these sporting calibers that use neck cartridges. You know, when they get shot, the brass actually expands because the pressure builds. You have so much gunpowder and a little projectile, and it all bottlenecks into the neck. For that same reason, to build that pressure behind it, the projectile, to be able to drive it, you know, at incredible speeds. You know, 3,500 feet. You know, like the 204 Ruger is almost just over 4,000 feet a second. You know, that's incredibly fast. It's an amazing round. So anyway, straight wall cartridges are very easy to reload, as opposed to long neck cartridges, which you need to look after the length a lot more. You have to make sure your length is good. Otherwise, you may not be able to feed the bullet, or you know, you could have a problem. So, straight wall cartridges are very easy to reload. The brass actually shrinks when the explosion happens, when the primer goes off after the firing pin hits it. There's a flash of fire that goes through the little flash hole into where the gunpowder is, which ignites the gunpowder, and the gunpowder basically explodes and it builds up, becomes gas. It creates, when the gunpowder burns, it creates gas, and the gas expands. Gas expands thousands of times per volume of gunpowder, so you know, it's just a massive ball of pressure behind the bullet, and the bullet just has no other way to go but forward, out of the barrel. So when that pressure is building behind the bullet is stopping that pressure. So what happens is the brass expands and it conforms to the chamber in your rifle. So that's why you could have two rifles that are the same caliber, but when the shots are fired from either rifle, their chambers are different. You know, even by a minute margin, it'll mean that the brass will end up in a different shape. So basically, if you pick up some brass from the range and you want to reload it, you have to full length resize it, just to make sure that it is within the standard measures for the majority of the chambers in that caliber. So, but basically, when the pressure builds behind the bullet, the brass is, being a soft metal, softer than steel, the brass expands and it conforms to the inside diameters of the chamber in your rifle until the pressure basically pushes it up, and then that drives the bullet out. So it is only minute amounts, very microscopic amounts, but it nevertheless happens. And basically the brass seals the gas behind the bullet. If there is a rupture in the shell, that you'll see little holes on the side of your chamber where it'll be like a safety outlet for the gas. You don't want that gas to, say, blow back into your face or your eye or towards your body, because it'll burn the hell out of you. It's like extremely hot gas. So that's why all firearms will have like a venting hole on the side, either to the right or to the left. If you check your rifle, you'll be able to see it. They're tiny little holes, and that's where the pressure will come out, and it'll be in a safe direction. Either before you go do any reloading, the first thing that you need to do is to make sure that your brass is in good shape. You have to make sure that it is ready for reloading. It's probably the most time-consuming part, is actually preparing your brass. You have to clean it, you have to decap it, take away the old primer, you have to clean the primer pocket if you so choose. You have to basically resize and full length resize the brass, and that's done by your decapping die, and basically your case has to be within a certain size to fit into your average chamber for that caliber. You have to make sure it's nice and clean. Then you have to re-prime it. You have to put a new primer in the back here, and then you have to expand the mouth. You have to add your powder. You have to put your bullet. You have to seat your bullet. Then you have to make sure that your bullet is not too far in and not too far out, so that it feeds into your chamber, in your rifle. And then after, you need to make sure that you crimp. It's called crimping the bullet. So once you put your bullet in, you have to make sure that basically the end of the cartridge that's holding the bullet basically sitting in the shell, you have to put pressure on it so it'll hold. It won't go out and it won't go in, especially in a tube magazine rifle. Every time you shoot one bullet, the bullets in the magazine are one behind the other. So that means that you don't want your bullets moving in and out, because that will affect your accuracy. If your bullets are either too far forward, they may not feed into your rifle, or if they're too far back in, it may be an unsafe cartridge to fire in your rifle. It has to be within a certain length. So we'll go more into that as we reload the cartridge, but I just wanted to give you a quick rundown. So basically the preparation of your brass is the most important thing, and it's probably the most time consuming. But if you do what I've done, just basically you can buy reloading guides. It explains the whole process. I decided to go with Nick Harvey. He's an Australian legend, shooting legend. Been around firearms basically all his life, and he's the guru, they call him. Just explains all the equipment you need, what to do first, what to do last, all the information. So it just goes right through. Really interesting reading. It explains how things work, why they're designed the way they are, how it all happens, the difference between gunpowders, the different bullets, and then it goes into the loading data, which is how much gunpowder you can put as a minimum and how much gunpowder you can put as a maximum, depending on what gunpowder you're using and depending on what weight bullet you're using. Some of the guides will actually name the actual bullet, but that's if you buy a reloading guide from a manufacturer of bullets, because they've done all their testing, and they have done testing specifically for that bullet. But in this instance, the guru is just telling you whichever bullet you want to use, just tells you the weight in grains, and then it tells you what powder he's tested and what the starting load has been and what the average speed has been, feet per second, and the maximum load, which you're not supposed to exceed, because then you can create a dangerous condition. You know, you could have a catastrophic failure of your firearm, which can be potentially lethal. You can kill you, or you can kill someone standing next to you. So you definitely don't want to do that. You want to be careful enough not to ever do that. You got to make sure you have to check everything you do, and if you're not happy, if you're not sure how much powder you put in, you know, basically take the powder out and do it again and weigh it again and redo it. It's better to check and double check than having, you know, than to have an accident. So for example, if you have if you're shooting 223 Remington, for example, the maximum length for 223 Remington is 44.7 millimeters, and if it goes beyond that length, then you have to trim it to length, and the agreed minimum length is 44.45 millimeters. So anything within 44.7 and 44.45 is okay to reload. It'll feed, it'll sit the bullet, it'll be no problem. Some people prefer to, no matter what length the brass is, they will just trim to length every time, and if you want to, you can do that. It just helps you for when you're seating your bullet, because then your crimp will always be on the same spot in all the brass, because all the brass is the same size. In this instance, we want to reload 44 Magnum, and then in here it tells you 44 Remington Magnum. These are load that are for lead bullets, which, for example, I've got some Black Hawks here which are hard cast projectiles from the Hawkesbury River Bullet Company. These are 240 grain pills. They come in a box of 400. It tells you the caliber, the grains, and it's a round nose, flat point. These will be the cheapest bullets. I think I paid 60 bucks for 400 bullets. Or you can go with copper jacketed bullets, which copper jacketed bullets, obviously the copper can stand the pressure. It won't melt like the lead does, so it'll be able to go a hell of a lot faster. You know, it all depends what sort of shooting you want to do. These will be good hunting bullets, because you could work up a load that's gonna go very fast. They're hollow point jacketed bullets. These are designed to inflict maximum damage on game, for hunting pigs or goats or foxes even at close distance. This would be devastating. It would just be lights out. The powders that I like using are the powders that are made here in Australia. You got to support your national industry. So ADR powders are manufactured by Talis Australia Limited in Mulwala, New South Wales 2647. No idea where that is, somewhere out in the bush. I like using Australian powders. Why? Because we'll never have a problem if there's a transport issue out of the US or whatever. You know, the factory is still here in Australia, so you'll be able to get this basically all the time. And also you support local jobs and you keep them in business. So I like using ADR powders, and there's also heaps of reloading data for their powders anyway. So for the jacketed hollow point bullets, 200 grain, we can use AR2205, a minimum load of 24 grains, which gives you around 1735 feet per second. Now, if you wanted to reload some Hawkesbury River Bullet Company bullets, so it says clearly here, lead bullets, 44 Magnum loads for Western action. So Western action is all lead cast bullets, right? So you got 165 grain, 185 grain, 200 grain lead, 240 grain lead. So basically these ones are cast bullets, so they're lead. AP70. Here we go. We've got some AP70. There you go. You can use some of that. And you can also use AS30N, which is another ADI powder. AP70, which is this one here, can have a minimum load of 6.5 grains, which gives you about 930 feet per second. Obviously a lot slower. Remember, lead melts. If the pressure's too big behind it, it'll just destroy the bullet before it comes out of the barrel. And you can have a maximum load of 10.2 grains, and that will give you 1375 feet per second. Alright, so that's muzzle velocity. That's the speed that it actually develops before it leaves the rifle. So as it comes out of the rifle, it'll be doing 1375 feet per second. So okay, let's have a look now at processing the brass. Okay.
What's up, world? Let's get it poppin' with CC Mixer. It's your boy Jeff Williams. Word. What's up, young world? It's Jeff Williams.
And Jay Lang.
You're listening to CC Mixer.
Where it's always in the
Composure on the inside, ulcer on the outside. Footsteps tap cool.